You wake up to another ordinary morning, but instead of the usual rush of thoughts and anxieties, imagine there's a stillness inside you, a silence so steady that even when the alarm buzzes a little late or the coffee machine spills a few drops on the counter, your heartbeat remains calm, your breathing smooth, your mind untouched. That picture might feel almost unreal, but it is not a fantasy. It is the reality you can build when calmness becomes your superpower. Calm is not just a mood you stumble into when things happen to go right. Calm is a deliberate state, something you can cultivate, train, and anchor so deeply into your being that it becomes the backdrop to everything. Most people live as though calm is something that either appears or vanishes depending on circumstance. When traffic is light, when the boss is in a good mood, when bills are paid, they feel relief. But the moment one variable shifts, the fragile peace collapses. You are here to learn a different way, to hold calmness as your steady baseline, regardless of whether life serves you sweetness or storms. This is why calm is not a luxury, but a necessity, not a temporary relief, but a daily superpower. Think of calm as strength disguised as softness. Society often confuses calmness with passivity, as though a calm person is weak, resigned, or detached. In truth, calmness is the discipline of mastering your own inner world. It takes far more strength to breathe slowly while chaos swirls around you than to join the chaos yourself. It takes more courage to stay steady when provoked than to lash out in anger. Calm is not about caring less. It is about caring in a way that doesn't shatter you. It is the art of holding steady so you can choose your next step wisely. Let's be real for a moment. Life will not stop throwing challenges your way. No audiobook, no meditation app, no motivational quote will change the fact that alarms will ring at the wrong time. Drivers will cut you off, emails will pile up, and unexpected bills will land in your inbox. Pretending otherwise is the fastest way to disappointment. But here's the shift. You can decide that these events no longer control the climate of your inner life. You can choose to become the weather system of your own mind, stable even when external storms rage. When you view calm as a daily superpower, it becomes clear that every small disturbance is actually an invitation. That driver who cuts you off is not your enemy. They are your training partner. That traffic jam is not only wasted time, it is a practice ground. Even the spilled coffee is not an annoyance, but a reminder. You are not here to be owned by events. You are here to own your response. Calm transforms these irritations from threats into opportunities. With every situation, you either rehearse agitation or you rehearse calm. And what you rehearse becomes who you are. The science behind this is fascinating. Neuroscience shows that your brain is wired to respond quickly to perceived threats, whether physical danger or emotional stress. When something unexpected happens, the amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure deep in your brain, activates almost instantly. It floods your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your muscles tense, your heartbeat quickens, and your mind narrows its focus. This is useful when you face actual danger, but in daily life, it becomes a trap. The brain does not distinguish between a tiger and a traffic jam. It reacts as though both are life-threatening. This is why you sometimes feel exhausted after what seems like a normal day. Your brain has been fighting battles that never existed. Here's where calm steps in. When you intentionally practice calmness through slow breathing, reframing thoughts, or simply pausing, You send a signal to your nervous system that the threat is not real. The parasympathetic branch of your nervous system activates, slowing the heartbeat, relaxing the muscles, and lowering stress hormone levels. Over time, this practice rewires your brain. The amygdala becomes less reactive, and the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational decision-making, gains more control. Calm is not just a feeling, it is a neurological training. Each time you choose calm over chaos, you literally reshape the architecture of your brain. Now, think of calm not as something you do occasionally, but as a lifestyle upgrade. Imagine starting your morning with calm, not checking your phone immediately, but sitting with your breath for 60 seconds, letting the silence stretch. Imagine walking into work and, before answering emails, setting an intention. I choose calm, no matter what enters my inbox. Imagine ending your day, not by scrolling endlessly, but by releasing the weight of unfinished tasks. Knowing that peace is not found in doing everything, but in choosing not to carry everything at once. This is calm as daily rhythm, woven into each transition of your day. Of course, there's a paradox here. The more you chase calmness directly, the further it runs from you. If you grip tightly and demand, "I must be calm now," you create more tension. Calm is not forced. It is cultivated. Think of it like water in cupped hands. Squeeze too hard, and it slips through your fingers. Hold your hands gently, and it rests there, still. The art of calm is the art of soft focus, of allowing rather than forcing. This doesn't mean you wait passively. It means you create conditions, breath, perspective, environment, where calm naturally arises. You may notice that many people around you are addicted to agitation. They thrive on being offended, being busy, being overwhelmed. It gives them a sense of importance. Look at how much I'm juggling. Look at how hard my life is. You might have caught yourself doing this too. There's a strange comfort in agitation because it feels active, like you're part of the world's energy. But agitation consumes more than it creates. It drains your vitality, shortens your patience, and clouds your judgment. Calm, on the other hand, may feel subtle at first, almost invisible. Yet over time, calm proves itself as the greater power. While agitation burns energy, calm generates it. While chaos narrows your vision, calm expands it. To make calm your superpower, you must begin by noticing where you lose it. Start by observing your daily micro-triggers. Do you tense up in traffic? Do you get sharp when someone interrupts you? Do you feel the rush of heat when an email criticizes your work? Each of these is a clue. Awareness is the first layer. Instead of blaming the situation, study your reaction. Ask yourself, what is really being threatened here? My safety, my pride, my need for control? This question alone can shift you from automatic reaction to conscious choice. And then comes practice. Calm grows like a muscle, not like a switch. At first, you may only hold it for seconds before slipping into your old habits. That is normal. Think of an athlete training balance. They wobble, they fall, they reset. The falling is not failure, it is training. Each time you return to calm, you strengthen the pathways in your nervous system that make it easier the next time. One day you realize you no longer wobble as much. Calmness, once fragile, has become your default posture. Another way to view calm as a superpower is through the lens of energy management. Everything you do consumes energy. Every thought, every reaction, every outburst. Most people waste their energy on reactivity, They replay arguments in their heads. They complain to others. They stew in resentment. By the end of the day, they feel drained, not because of what happened, but because of how many times they relived it. Calm saves energy. Instead of burning yourself in reaction, you conserve your fire for what truly matters. With calm, you have more fuel for creativity, for love, for focus. Calm is not the absence of energy, but the wise use of it. There is also a spiritual layer to calmness that science alone cannot explain. Many wisdom traditions teach that calm is the gateway to clarity. When the waters of a lake are still, you can see to the bottom. When the surface is agitated, everything becomes distorted. Your mind works the same way. In agitation, you misperceive reality, projecting fears and judgments. In calm, you see clearly what is, and clarity guides you toward wiser choices. In this sense, calm is not just a tool, but a path to wisdom. It is the soil where insight grows. But here is the reality check. Calmness will sometimes make you feel different from others. When everyone else is panicking and you remain steady, you might feel out of place. People may even misinterpret your calm as indifference. But stay with it. Over time, they will notice that your calm creates safety. They will see that when you are calm, they feel calmer too. Calmness radiates. It spreads through a room like warmth. By cultivating calm, you are not only helping yourself, but also creating an invisible gift for others. You become the anchor others unconsciously trust. So how do you begin today? Start small. Choose one daily anchor for calm. It might be 3 deep breaths before responding to a text. It might be pausing before speaking in a tense conversation. It might be noticing your shoulders and relaxing them while waiting in line. These small acts accumulate, just as drops of water fill a cup. Each act of calm builds your reservoir. With time, the reservoir grows so deep that disturbances barely ripple the surface. And then, as you live this way, you notice something profound. Calm doesn't mean nothing happens. The world remains messy, unpredictable, unfair. But calm means you are no longer enslaved by it. You can walk through the storm and not become the storm. You can hold peace in your body while the world shouts around you. And that, truly, is a superpower. You've already begun to see how calm is not a passive accident, but an active superpower you can cultivate, a kind of strength disguised as stillness. But here is where the journey deepens. To truly wield calmness, you must first recognize the subtle triggers that rob you of it. Triggers are like hidden wires beneath the surface of your daily life. You walk across them without thinking, and suddenly, zap, your peace is gone. One moment you feel steady, and the next, your body tightens, your words sharpen, and your mind spirals. You may blame the traffic, the late reply, the spilled coffee, or the careless comment. But underneath all of that is a trigger, and until you learn to unmask them, calm will always feel fragile. Think about your last argument, the one that left you rattled even after the words stopped. What exactly set you off? Was it the other person's tone, the way they dismissed you, the feeling that they weren't listening? On the surface, you might say, they made me angry. But if you look closer, the real story is that something inside you got poked. Maybe an old memory of being ignored. Maybe a deep need for respect. Maybe a fear of not being valued. This is the hidden architecture of your triggers. Each one is tied to something deeper than the moment itself. Here's the fascinating part. Your brain is constantly scanning the world for patterns that match past experiences. If, as a child, you felt criticized often, your brain may now interpret neutral feedback as an attack. If you once experienced betrayal, you might overread signs of disloyalty in current relationships. The amygdala is quick to activate, pulling the emergency alarm before your rational mind even has time to interpret. That's why you sometimes react disproportionately to small things. It's not about the small thing. It's about the echo it awakens. Learning to identify your triggers requires curiosity rather than judgment. You are not weak because you get triggered. You are human. The power lies in becoming an observer of your own inner landscape. Think of it like mapping a coastline. You can't sail safely until you know where the rocks and shallow waters are. Each time you notice, this situation makes me tighten up. You place another marker on your map. Over time, the map grows detailed, and instead of being blindsided, you begin to anticipate the terrain. One practical way to start is journaling. At the end of your day, write down moments where you lost your calm. Be honest without shaming yourself. Maybe it was the slow cashier, the loud neighbor, the ignored message. Then ask, what exactly did I feel? Anger, fear, embarrassment? Next, ask, what did I believe in that moment? Perhaps, people don't respect my time, or I'm being rejected. By tracing the emotion back to the belief, you begin to see the trigger's root. Another method is mindfulness. Instead of waiting until after you explode, you practice noticing in real time. When tension rises, don't rush to suppress it or justify it. Simply notice. My jaw is tight. My chest feels hot. I'm clenching my fists. This observation interrupts the automatic chain reaction. It places a gap between stimulus and response, and in that gap is your freedom. The more you practice, the quicker you become at catching the spark before it ignites into flame. Cognitive behavioral therapy offers another layer. It teaches that triggers often arise from distorted thought patterns, like all-or-nothing thinking, catastrophizing, or overgeneralization. For example, if a friend cancels dinner, your mind might leap to, they don't value me, instead of, they're simply tired. By challenging these automatic interpretations, you disarm the trigger's power. The event remains, but the story you attach to it changes, and with it, your emotional reaction. But let's move beyond psychology into something more lived and embodied. Triggers are not just mental, they're also physical. Notice your body when you're triggered. The clenched stomach, the raised shoulders, the shallow breathing. These are signals. Your body is the first to know before your mind has formed words. By learning to read your body like a sensitive instrument, you gain early warning. It's like hearing the faint rumble of a storm before the lightning strikes. When you sense it, you can step back, breathe, and choose differently. And here's where calm becomes not just defense, but offense. When you unmask your triggers, you don't just avoid losing control, you reclaim energy. Think of all the times you've wasted hours replaying a conflict, stewing in resentment, or doubting yourself after a small event. That energy could have been invested in your art, your health, your relationships, your growth. Each trigger you disarm is like plugging a leak in your energy system. Over time, you stop leaking so much power and begin storing it. Calmness then becomes not fragile, but abundant. Of course, triggers vary for everyone. For some, it's time pressure. Deadlines trigger panic, making every small task feel like life or death. For others, it's criticism. Any hint that they're not perfect ignites shame. Some are triggered by noise, some by silence, some by authority, some by lack of structure. There is no universal list. That's why self-observation matters. You are the only one who can map your own trigger points. But once you do, you realize most triggers are predictable, and what is predictable can be prepared for. Here's a practice. Create a calm checklist for your common triggers. If traffic is your trigger, practice reframing. Traffic is not punishment. It's time gifted for podcasts, music, or silence. If conflict is your trigger, prepare a mantra. Their words do not define my worth. If criticism is your trigger, anchor yourself with reminders of your strengths. By preparing ahead, you walk into situations armed, not with weapons, but with shields of awareness. Triggers also invite compassion for yourself and for others. When you see how old wounds shape your reactions, you begin to understand that everyone else is carrying their own hidden triggers too. That person snapping at you may not be reacting to you at all, but to something buried deep in their past. This doesn't excuse poor behavior, but it gives you perspective. Compassion softens your own reaction, allowing calm to expand beyond your skin and into the space between you and others. Sometimes, though, the most powerful step is simply naming your triggers aloud. Imagine telling yourself in the moment, "This is my need for control speaking," or "This is my fear of rejection showing up." Naming it diminishes its grip. It's like shining a flashlight on a shadow. It loses its mystery and shrinks. The moment you name it, you separate yourself from it. You are no longer the triggered reaction. You are the one observing it. That distance is freedom. The journey of unmasking triggers is not about erasing them completely. That's unrealistic. You will always have tender spots. But the goal is not invulnerability. It is resilience. When you know your triggers intimately, they stop surprising you. Instead of being hijacked, you respond with awareness. You become less like a puppet, pulled by invisible strings, and more like a steady captain, steering through familiar waters. Over time, this mastery spills into every corner of your life. Your relationships grow calmer because you no longer escalate small sparks into wildfires. Your work becomes clearer because you waste less energy on defensiveness. Your health improves because stress hormones no longer flood your body at every inconvenience. Even your creativity expands because calmness gives your mind the space to explore instead of defend. And perhaps the most surprising part, you begin to enjoy life more. When triggers lose their grip, small annoyances no longer dominate your day. You laugh more easily. You let things slide. You savor ordinary moments. Calm becomes not only a superpower, but also a source of joy. So, as you step deeper into this journey, remember, calmness is not just about breathing techniques or meditation cushions. It begins right here, with the courage to face your triggers honestly. Each one you uncover is not an enemy, but a teacher. Each one points you toward where healing is possible. And as you heal, calm becomes less something you chase and more something you simply are. You've begun to unmask your triggers, to notice the subtle ways they hijack your peace and drain your energy. Now you can go even deeper into the very mechanics of how emotions are born inside you. Calmness becomes unshakable when you not only see your triggers, but also understand the invisible machinery beneath them. The more you grasp how your brain and body create emotions, the less mysterious and overwhelming they feel. You stop being a passenger on a runaway train and start becoming the engineer who understands every lever and brake. At its simplest, an emotion is your body's way of translating information into experience. Something happens, a tone of voice, a flashing headline, a memory, and your brain instantly assigns meaning. This meaning triggers a physical response: heart rate, hormones, muscle tension, shifts in breath. Then you label the whole experience: anger, joy, fear, sadness. But here's the key. Emotions are not raw truth. They are constructed perceptions, shaped by your past, your culture, and your beliefs. Once you realize this, you see how malleable they are. Take anger, for example. You might think it simply happens to you. But neuroscientists show that anger begins in milliseconds, with the amygdala scanning for threat. Then cortisol floods your bloodstream, your muscles prepare for fight, and your thoughts narrow to defense. Yet if you step back, you see that anger is not purely about the moment. It's about the interpretation. Two people can face the exact same event and feel completely different emotions. One sees a cutting remark as disrespect. Another sees it as humor. The difference lies not in the remark, but in the meaning attached. This is why emotional intelligence is so crucial. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist. It's about learning to decode them, to pause and ask, what story is my brain attaching to this sensation? When you can separate sensation from story, you create space. In that space, calmness breathes. Think about sadness. It often feels like heaviness in the body, slowed movement, a lump in the throat, tears pressing behind the eyes. Those are physical sensations. The story might be, I've lost something important. But not every sensation of heaviness equals true loss. Sometimes your body is simply tired, your hormones fluctuating, your energy low. If you mistake every heavy feeling as a permanent truth, you drown in it. If you learn to distinguish the physical from the story, you gain perspective. Fear works the same way. Your racing heart doesn't always mean danger. It might mean excitement, anticipation, growth. The same bodily signals can be labeled as fear or courage, depending on the story you attach. This is why some people love roller coasters, while others hate them. The body feels the same rush, but the interpretation differs. By reframing, you can literally rewrite fear into energy for action. This understanding liberates you. When you know emotions are constructions, you stop being trapped by them. You begin to see them as data, not destiny. Anger says, something feels unfair. Fear says, something feels uncertain. Sadness says, something feels lost. These are signals, not verdicts. They are guides, not jailers. When you approach them this way, you can listen without being ruled. But let's go even deeper. Why does your brain cling so tightly to old emotional patterns? Because it values efficiency. The brain is like a prediction machine, always trying to guess what will happen next, based on past experience. If you once felt humiliated when speaking in public, your brain remembers. The next time you face an audience, it predicts humiliation again. Even before anything has gone wrong, it floods you with anxiety as a precaution. This prediction loop explains why old wounds echo so loudly. They are shortcuts your brain uses to protect you. Yet this efficiency is also your opportunity. Just as your brain can wire fear into certain situations, it can rewire calmness into them. Each time you practice responding differently, breathing deeply, reframing thoughts, relaxing muscles, you give your brain new data. Over time, the prediction changes. Instead of public speaking equals humiliation, it becomes public speaking equals confidence. This is the essence of neuroplasticity. Your brain is always rewiring, always reshaping itself according to your practice. And don't underestimate your body's role. Emotions are embodied, not just mental. Your gut, your heart, your muscles all speak the language of emotion. When you ignore your body, you miss half the message. But when you tune in, when you notice that clenching stomach, that buzzing chest, that constricted throat, you intercept the emotion before it becomes overwhelming. The body whispers before the mind shouts. If you listen to the whispers, you rarely face the storm. Here's a simple practice. Throughout your day, pause and ask, where is my body speaking right now? Maybe your shoulders ache. Are you carrying stress? Maybe your jaw is tight. Are you biting back words? By noticing, you give yourself a chance to soften. This practice doesn't erase emotions, but makes them less likely to hijack you. You step into partnership with your body rather than being blindsided by it. Culture and upbringing also shape emotional patterns. In some families, expressing anger is taboo, so it leaks out as passive aggression. In others, sadness is seen as weakness, so it gets buried until it explodes. Recognizing these cultural scripts is part of emotional mastery. You may discover that some of your strongest reactions are not truly yours, but inherited. Patterns passed down through family or society. By noticing them, you gain the power to choose whether to continue or release them. And here's the deeper layer. Your emotions are not enemies. They are allies wearing dramatic costumes. Anger is the costume of your need for justice. Fear is the costume of your need for safety. Sadness is the costume of your need for connection. When you see past the costume to the need beneath, you stop fighting the emotion and start listening to it. Calmness doesn't mean silencing emotions. It means hearing their message clearly without being swept away by their performance. Imagine this. The next time you feel irritation rising, instead of snapping, you pause and ask, what is the need here? Maybe it's respect, maybe it's rest, maybe it's clarity. When you meet the need directly, the emotion softens on its own. This is the secret. Calmness grows when you treat emotions not as intruders, but as messengers. So, as you deepen into the science of emotions, you realize something powerful. Calm is not about never feeling. It's about never being enslaved. It's about seeing the machinery, understanding the signals, and then choosing your response. Your brain will still predict, your body will still react, but you will be the one steering. You'll hold the wheel even as waves rise, not because the sea is calm, but because you are. You now hold the blueprint of how your emotions are shaped and triggered, and with that knowledge, you've already reclaimed some power. But calmness isn't only about what happens inside you. It's also about how you connect with the world outside. Human life is woven from interactions, and many of your storms are not born in solitude, but in relationships. A careless remark, a raised eyebrow, a sharp tone. Suddenly, the peace you built within evaporates. That is why learning to communicate without conflict is not just a social skill. It's a pillar of calm living. Think about how many times your day has been derailed, not by a physical event, but by a conversation gone wrong. You walk into a meeting calm, but a colleague interrupts you and dismisses your idea. Your pulse spikes, your chest tightens, your thoughts scatter. Or at home, you ask for help with a chore and receive only a sigh or a sarcastic response. Suddenly, calmness is gone. This reveals something crucial. The quality of your communication shapes the quality of your inner state. If you want calmness to endure, you must learn to interact in ways that protect it. The foundation of calm communication is active listening. You've probably heard the term before, but few practice it. Most people don't truly listen. They wait to speak. They half hear while crafting their rebuttal. Active listening flips this. You give full attention, not just to the words, but to the emotions underneath. You notice tone, posture, pace. You let the other person feel heard before you rush to reply. And here's the miracle. When people feel heard, their defensiveness lowers. Tension eases. Conflict softens before it erupts. By listening deeply, you create calm, not only for yourself, but for the other person too. Another key is assertive communication. Assertiveness is often misunderstood. Some think it means aggression, speaking louder, dominating the space. Others think it means meek politeness, avoiding conflict at all costs. In truth, assertiveness is the middle path. It is the courage to express your needs clearly without trampling others. It's saying, "I feel overwhelmed when chores pile up. Can we share them?" Instead of lashing out with, "You never help me." It's stating boundaries with kindness. "I can't take on that project right now, but I can support you in this smaller way." Assertiveness honors both your worth and the worth of the other. Notice how calmness threads through this. If you shout, you inflame. If you withdraw, you breed resentment. Assertiveness, delivered calmly, creates clarity without fire. The more you practice it, the less drained you feel after conversations. Your words stop being weapons or shields. They become bridges. Emotions, of course, still flow in conversations. That's why regulating your state is essential. If your anger spikes mid-discussion, your words will harden. If fear rises, your voice may shrink. To prevent this, pause. Take a breath before replying. Feel your feet on the ground. Your shoulders drop. This simple act resets your nervous system. Instead of reacting from the amygdala, you respond from your higher mind. Over time, this pause becomes second nature. People notice it. They sense that you don't rush to attack or retreat. You hold yourself steady, and in doing so, you steady the room. Nonverbal cues are equally powerful. Your body speaks before your mouth does. Crossed arms, darting eyes, clenched jaws. They communicate defensiveness even when your words sound polite. If you want calm interactions, align your body with your intention. Open posture, relaxed shoulders, steady eye contact. Speak slowly rather than rushing. Let silence stretch without panic. This embodied calm signals safety. People feel it, and their own nervous systems relax in response. You become a tuning fork of steadiness. Now, consider boundaries. Many conflicts flare, not because of malice, but because of unclear expectations. Someone keeps calling late at night, and you seethe silently instead of speaking up. A coworker dumps tasks on you, and resentment grows. Without boundaries, your calm erodes drop by drop. Boundaries are not walls, they are guideposts. They say, "Here is where I can meet you, and here is where I cannot." They protect your peace while still allowing connection. When set with empathy, acknowledging the other's needs while honoring your own, they strengthen relationships rather than weaken them. This requires courage. The first time you set a boundary, your voice may shake. You may fear rejection. But remember, every no spoken calmly is also a yes to your peace. Over time, you realize that people respect you more when you communicate with clarity. Boundaries actually invite trust because others know where they stand with you. Of course, not every interaction will be smooth. Some people thrive on drama. Some resist listening. Some test your boundaries. Here's where calmness transforms from strategy into presence. You don't control their behavior, but you always control your stance. You can listen without absorbing, speak without aggression, exit without guilt. Calmness means refusing to let another's storm dictate your climate. You may walk away from a conversation still firm in your peace, because you chose not to hand over your inner state. Practical tools help. Try this. When in a tense exchange, silently repeat a grounding phrase like, "I remain steady," or "This moment will pass." Anchor yourself with breath. Inhale through your nose. Exhale longer than you inhale. Keep your tone softer than your emotions urge. These subtle techniques shift the energy. You'll notice that even when others escalate, your calm acts as a mirror, often de-escalating the whole encounter. Think of historical figures known for their calm authority. Leaders who faced opposition without shouting, who stood firm without aggression. Their power didn't come from louder voices, but from deeper steadiness. They modeled how calm presence itself can be persuasive, disarming, even revolutionary. In your daily life, you too can embody this. At work, at home, in friendships, you can be the one who lowers the temperature, who chooses clarity over chaos. And here's the deeper reward. Calm communication creates intimacy. When you listen actively, when you express honestly without harm, when you respect boundaries, trust grows. People feel safe to be real with you. They bring you their truth instead of their masks. And you, in turn, experience relationships with less friction and more harmony. Calmness ripples outward. It doesn't just preserve your peace, it builds a shared peace. So imagine this. The next time a conversation starts to heat, instead of bracing for battle, you breathe and lean in with curiosity. You listen fully. You speak your truth without venom. You hold your posture open, your tone steady. The other person may not match your calm immediately, but they feel it. Something shifts. You've transformed what could have been a conflict into an exchange. You walk away not drained, but centered. This is the art of communication without conflict, and it is one of the surest ways to carry calmness into every corner of your life. You've steadied yourself in conversations, discovered the power of boundaries, and seen how calmness can transform not only your internal state, but also your connections with others. Yet there is still one arena where the greatest battles for calmness unfold: inside your own head. For all the external triggers and interactions that test your peace, nothing is as relentless as the voice that lives within you, the inner critic, the ceaseless commentary, the subtle drip of self-doubt. These shape your world more than anything outside ever could. To master calmness, you must transform your self-concept. Think about the running dialogue in your mind. When you spill water on your desk, does your voice say, "Clumsy fool," or "That happens, let's clean it up"? When you forget a detail in a presentation, does your voice say, "You're terrible at this," or "Everyone makes mistakes, you'll recover"? These tiny sentences, repeated hundreds of times a day, accumulate. They sculpt your identity. They color your mood. They even influence how others perceive you. If your inner critic shouts constantly, calmness cannot last. It is like trying to meditate next to a blaring speaker. Negative self-talk usually begins in childhood. Maybe you were told you weren't enough, or you internalized society's impossible standards. Over time, those messages became automatic. Now they arise before you even notice. You look in the mirror and hear, "Not attractive enough." You start a project and hear, "You'll probably fail." These thoughts don't feel like voices. They feel like facts. But they are not facts. They are echoes. They are habits of mind. And just as you can unlearn biting your nails or slouching your shoulders, you can unlearn self-criticism. The first step is awareness. Begin to notice your inner dialogue as if it belonged to someone else. When the voice says, "You're not smart enough," imagine hearing it in another person's tone. Would you believe them? Would you allow a stranger to speak to you this way? Likely not. By creating that distance, you see the absurdity of many of your own thoughts. Awareness turns the critic from an unquestioned authority into a character you can challenge. From there, you begin reframing. Instead of letting the inner voice bully you, you replace its words with balanced, compassionate statements, not empty praise, but truth-based encouragement. "I'm terrible at everything" becomes, "I struggled today, but I have overcome struggles before." "I can't do this" becomes, "I may not know yet, but I can learn." Each reframe builds a new groove in your brain, teaching it to default to calm support rather than agitation. Self-compassion is central here. Many resist it, fearing it will make them lazy. They think, "If I stop being hard on myself, I'll stop improving." But research shows the opposite. People who treat themselves kindly recover faster from setbacks, take more risks, and persist longer. Compassion fuels growth better than criticism ever could. Picture a child learning to walk. You don't scream at the child for falling. You encourage them, help them up, cheer the tiny steps. Why would you treat yourself with less care than a toddler? One powerful tool is the practice of writing affirmations, not hollow slogans, but grounded declarations of truth. For example, "I am capable of learning hard things." "I deserve rest without guilt." "I am allowed to make mistakes while growing." Say them aloud, write them daily, post them where you'll see them. Repetition rewires the subconscious. Over time, these affirmations become as automatic as the old criticisms, but infinitely more empowering. And don't forget the body's role. Negative self-talk often triggers physical tension, slumped posture, shallow breath, furrowed brow. Flip the script by shifting your physiology. Stand tall, breathe deeply, relax your face. Research shows that posture and breath influence confidence. By holding your body in calm strength, you send a message to your brain: "I am steady." This embodied affirmation sometimes works faster than words. Of course, deep wounds may require more than affirmations. Some beliefs are tied to past traumas or long-standing shame. Here, therapy can be transformative. Techniques like cognitive behavioral therapy help identify distorted thinking, while approaches like EMDR or somatic therapy work directly with stored memories in the body. Seeking support is not weakness, it is wisdom. Calmness is not only self-practice, it is also knowing when to invite help. As you transform your self-concept, you also cultivate a growth mindset. This means seeing failures not as verdicts on your worth, but as steps in learning. When your inner critic says, "You failed, therefore you are a failure," you answer, "I failed, therefore I am learning." This subtle shift changes everything. Suddenly, challenges are not threats to your identity, but opportunities to expand it. You move through life with less fear and more curiosity. Calmness grows because setbacks no longer shake your foundation. Here's a practice to try tonight. List 3 moments from the day where your inner voice was harsh. Then rewrite each moment with compassionate language. If you spilled something, write, "That was inconvenient, but it doesn't define me." If you procrastinated, write, "I avoided the task, but tomorrow I can start small." Do this daily for 2 weeks, and you will feel the weight of criticism lift. And remember, calm self-concept is not about blind positivity. It doesn't mean ignoring flaws or pretending perfection. It means meeting yourself honestly, but kindly. It means saying, "Yes, I made a mistake, and yes, I still have value." This balance anchors you. You no longer ride the roller coaster of praise and blame. You remain steady, grounded in self-acceptance. Imagine walking into a room with this kind of calm confidence. You don't need everyone's approval because you've already given yourself approval. You don't crumble under criticism because you know criticism is information, not identity. You don't boast or shrink because you don't need to. You stand quietly, calmly, fully yourself. That is power. That is freedom. And it begins with silencing, or better yet, befriending, the voice within. You've reshaped your inner dialogue, softened the sharp edges of self-talk, and begun building an inner environment of compassion. Yet calmness does not live only inside your mind. It is constantly shaped by the spaces you inhabit and the invisible digital streams you swim through every day. Your surroundings, the clutter on your desk, the light in your room, the notifications on your phone, are not neutral. They are signals, constantly speaking to your nervous system. If you want to hold calmness as your natural state, you must learn to design your environment to support it. Start with the physical space around you. Walk into a cluttered room and notice how your shoulders lift, almost unconsciously. Every pile of paper, every dish left unwashed, every tangled cord whispers of unfinished tasks. Your mind translates that clutter into pressure. You should do more. You should fix this. You should hurry. By contrast, walk into a clean, open space and feel how your breath deepens without effort. A room with order gives your nervous system permission to rest. Calmness is not just a mental practice. It is also spatial hygiene. Decluttering is not about minimalism for its own sake. It's about creating an environment that frees your attention. Each unnecessary object is a micro-trigger, pulling at the edges of your focus. When you reduce them, you reduce the noise. This doesn't mean your space must be bare. It means everything present should either serve a purpose or spark joy. The books you love, the art that inspires you, the tools you use, these belong. The broken gadgets, the dusty piles, the clothes you haven't touched in years, these drain you quietly. Each item is a decision waiting to be made, and by clearing them, you lighten your mind. Light, air, and sound also shape your calm. Natural light signals your body to regulate mood and energy. Poor lighting strains your eyes and weighs on your mood. Open windows or step outside daily. Sunlight is medicine. Airflow matters too. Stale air dulls your thinking, while fresh air sharpens it. And sound. This may be the most underestimated. Noise pollution raises stress hormones, even when you're not fully aware of it. The hum of appliances, the traffic outside, the endless buzz, they accumulate in your nervous system. Protect your ears with quiet, or fill your space intentionally with calming sounds. Music that soothes, white noise that steadies, silence that lets your mind breathe. Nature is a powerful ally. Research shows that even a small plant on your desk lowers stress and increases focus. Views of trees or water restore attention more effectively than cityscapes. This is the principle of biophilic design, weaving nature into human spaces. You don't need a forest retreat, just a touch of greenery, a piece of wood furniture, an open window with sky. Your nervous system evolved in nature. It remembers calm when surrounded by it. But environment is not only physical anymore. You live in two spaces, your outer world and your digital world. And often, the digital one overwhelms you more. Notifications, feeds, emails, endless scrolling, they create constant micro-stresses. Each ping is a trigger, each scroll a comparison, each headline a surge of cortisol. Your calmness leaks, not because of one dramatic crisis, but because of 1,000 tiny digital cuts. Think about your phone. It sits on your desk, and even when silent, it pulls at your attention. The possibility of interruption keeps part of your brain on edge. Studies show that just having a phone in sight reduces focus and increases anxiety. This is why digital boundaries are essential. You cannot expect calmness if you give your devices unlimited access to your nervous system. Start simple. Turn off non-essential notifications. Do you need to be buzzed every time someone likes a post? Each buzz pulls you out of presence and trains your body to expect constant interruption. Choose intentional times to check instead. Then, reclaim the edges of your day. Begin mornings without screens. Let your nervous system settle before the digital flood. End evenings screen-free for at least half an hour. The blue light disrupts sleep, and the mental noise lingers into dreams. Practice digital fasting. Set aside an afternoon, a day, or even just an hour when you step completely away. At first, it feels uncomfortable, like withdrawal. But soon you rediscover silence, attention, stillness. You realize how much of your anxiety was not yours at all, but borrowed from the feed. In this silence, calmness grows roots. Also, be mindful of what digital content you consume. Every post, every video, every headline is food for your mind. If your diet is full of outrage, comparison, fear, your emotional state mirrors it. Curate your feed the way you curate your meals. Choose sources that inspire, teach, uplift, delete or mute what drains you. The calmness you protect digitally is just as real as the calmness you protect physically. Now, combine the physical and digital. Imagine a workspace where your desk is clear. A plant sits by the window. Natural light fills the room, and your phone rests out of sight while you focus. Imagine your living room with fewer distractions, more order, screens tucked away, books or instruments within reach. Imagine evenings where the lights are warm, the air fresh, and conversations replace notifications. This is not aesthetic fantasy. It is nervous system design. You are crafting an ecosystem where calm thrives. And remember, environment is not static. It evolves with your life. Regularly audit your spaces. Ask, does this room support my peace? Does this feed nourish or deplete me? Does this routine calm or agitate? Adjust without guilt. Calmness is not about rigid rules, but about consistent alignment. The truth is, many people sabotage their calm by ignoring their environment. They try to meditate while surrounded by clutter. They try to focus while their phone buzzes every 2 minutes. They try to rest while their room screams of unfinished tasks. No wonder peace feels out of reach. The soil must be prepared if you want calmness to grow. Your environment is that soil. So, as you continue this journey, don't overlook the simple power of space and design. Calmness is not only breath and thought, it is also the room you wake up in, the desk you work at, the glow of your screen at midnight. When you choose those elements with care, you stop fighting your surroundings and let them support you. You build not just inner calm, but a life that echoes it outward. You've begun to see how your environment, both physical and digital, acts like invisible hands shaping your calmness. But environment is only one part of the long-term equation. If calm is to move from a fleeting experience to a way of being, you need something deeper than rearranged rooms and silenced notifications. You need emotional resilience, a steady strength that lets you bend without breaking. And the surest way to build this resilience is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is often misunderstood. People imagine monks on mountaintops, incense, chanting, hours of sitting in silence. But at its heart, mindfulness is astonishingly simple. It is paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It is noticing what's here, right now, rather than getting pulled into yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's anxieties. And while simple, it is also revolutionary, because so much of your agitation comes from everywhere but the present. You replay arguments that ended years ago. You worry about events that haven't even happened. Rarely do you suffer in the actual moment. More often, you suffer in the stories your mind spins. Mindfulness breaks that cycle. Each time you anchor into the now, you interrupt the mental time travel that feeds stress. You return to the only place you actually live, the present. And in the present, calmness naturally arises. Start with mindful breathing. It sounds too small to matter, but it is the cornerstone. Right now. Notice your inhale. Cool air entering your nose, your chest rising, your belly expanding. Now your exhale. Warm air leaving, shoulders softening, body releasing. This simple noticing shifts your nervous system. It tells your brain, there is no emergency. Over time, these micro moments of awareness weave into a fabric of steadiness. From breath, you expand into body scan meditation. Imagine moving your attention slowly from head to toe, noticing sensations without trying to change them. Tension in your forehead, flutter in your chest, heaviness in your legs. Instead of resisting discomfort, you allow it. This builds resilience because you practice being with what is, rather than fighting it. You learn that even unpleasant sensations rise and fall, and so will emotions. Calm grows as you trust the ebb and flow. Another powerful practice is mindful observation of thoughts. Sit quietly and watch your mind. Thoughts will appear, lists, worries, judgments. Instead of grabbing them, you simply note, thinking. You let them drift like clouds. This teaches you that you are not your thoughts. You are the one watching. That shift alone is profound. The inner critic loses its grip when you see it as just another cloud in the sky. Mindfulness is not only for meditation cushions, it is for dishwashing, for walking, for conversations. Mindful eating means noticing each bite, the texture, the flavor, the gratitude for nourishment. Mindful walking means feeling your feet touch the ground, your breath syncing with your steps. Mindful listening means giving someone your full attention, not rehearsing your reply. Each act becomes an anchor into now. Life stops being a blur of tasks and becomes a series of present moments. But mindfulness is not just about attention. It's also about attitude. Presence alone is not enough. It must be infused with kindness. Without kindness, mindfulness becomes cold observation. With kindness, it becomes medicine. That's why loving kindness meditation is so transformative. You sit quietly, repeat phrases like, "May I be safe, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be free." Then you extend it outward, to loved ones, to strangers, even to those you struggle with. At first, it feels forced, but with practice, it softens your heart. It dissolves hostility and grows compassion. Calm expands not just within you, but between you and the world. And then there is detachment, a principle often mistaken for indifference. Detachment in the context of mindfulness does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You release the demand that life go your way. You stop gripping outcomes so tightly that they bruise you. You learn to engage fully while holding loosely. This is freedom. To love without possession, to work without obsession, to strive without desperation. Consider how much agitation comes from attachment. You want someone's approval, so you feel panic at their silence. You want a plan to unfold perfectly, so you feel rage at every obstacle. Detachment loosens the rope. You still care, but you are not enslaved. You do your part, but you release the illusion of control over everything else. The result? Calmness. Not because life became smooth, but because you no longer hinge your peace on every ripple. Here's a practice. Next time you feel anxious about an outcome, say to yourself, "I release the outcome. I remain present." Repeat until your body softens. This simple phrase rewires your relationship to uncertainty. Life remains unpredictable, but you remain steady. Mindfulness also cultivates gratitude. By noticing the small details of daily life, the warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of breath, the laughter of a friend, you train your brain to focus on abundance rather than lack. Gratitude doesn't erase difficulty, but it reframes it. It reminds you that calmness can coexist with challenges. Even in storms, there are drops of beauty. Gratitude anchors you to them, and mindfulness builds patience. In a world addicted to speed, patience is radical. It is choosing not to be yanked by urgency, not to confuse fast with meaningful. Patience says, "I can wait, I can breathe, I can trust the unfolding." With patience, calm becomes natural. Over time, mindfulness weaves a quiet strength through your life. You stop being jerked around by every thought, every fear, every delay. You meet each moment as it is, without needing it to be otherwise. Calm becomes your baseline, not because nothing disturbs you, but because you return again and again to presence. Imagine living this way. A delay in traffic no longer enrages you. It becomes time to breathe. A harsh word no longer defines you. You hear it. You notice your reaction. You let it pass. A setback at work no longer shatters your confidence. You reframe it as part of growth. Each moment, you meet with presence. Each moment, you hold your power. This is emotional resilience built on mindfulness, and it is the foundation of a calm life. You've built the groundwork of mindfulness and tasted the strength of detachment. Calmness is no longer just something you stumble into. It's becoming something you cultivate intentionally. But even with inner practices, life will keep testing you through other people. Words spoken in haste, misinterpretations, sharp disagreements, they all have the power to ignite fires if you let them. That is why communication becomes the next frontier. To hold calm in every situation, you must learn to speak and listen in ways that dissolve conflict rather than fuel it. Think about how quickly misunderstandings flare. A text left unanswered spirals into stories about neglect. A simple, "we need to talk," triggers anxiety before the conversation even begins. A sharp tone from someone you love can undo hours of inner peace. These moments reveal how fragile calmness can feel when language is involved. But what if communication itself became a practice of calm? What if every interaction could become an opportunity to deepen steadiness rather than lose it? The first key is presence. In most conversations, you half listen, half prepare your reply. Your mind races. How should I respond? How do I defend myself? What do I say next? The other person senses this distance, and tension grows. Presence means putting that aside and listening fully, not just to words but to emotions, pauses, body language. When you listen this way, people feel it. They soften, they trust, and in that trust, conflict often dissolves before it begins. Practice active listening by reflecting back what you hear. If someone says, "I feel ignored," you might reply, "You feel like I haven't been paying attention." This doesn't mean you agree. It means you've heard them. The moment someone feels seen, their defenses lower. Calm fills the space where defensiveness once lived. But listening is only half. You also need to express yourself clearly without sparking unnecessary flames. This is where assertive communication comes in. Assertiveness means you honor your own needs without attacking others. Instead of saying, "You never respect my time," you might say, "When meetings start late, I feel stressed because it shortens the rest of my day. Can we start on time?" Notice the shift. Same message, but calm delivery. Blame is replaced by clarity. Attack is replaced by request. Calm thrives in this kind of honesty. Tone matters as much as words. You've probably noticed how a gentle, "Can we talk?" feels completely different from a sharp, "We need to talk." The nervous system reacts instantly. That's why regulating your tone and pace is as important as the content. Slow your speech, lower your volume, let pauses exist. These nonverbal cues signal safety. They calm not only you, but also the other person. Nonverbal language extends to your body. Crossing your arms may feel comfortable, but it can signal defensiveness. Rapid gestures can feel like aggression. Instead, keep your posture open, shoulders relaxed, hands calm. Maintain steady eye contact, not piercing, but warm. These subtle choices create an atmosphere of steadiness where calmness can thrive. Another layer is curiosity. In conflict, you often assume you already know the other's motives. They don't care. They're selfish. They're trying to hurt me. These assumptions ignite anger before the other even speaks. Curiosity dissolves that. Instead of assuming, you ask, "Help me understand what you mean." Or, "What's important to you in this situation?" Questions invite dialogue instead of battle. Calmness grows when you let curiosity replace judgment. Of course, calm communication requires boundaries too. If someone raises their voice, you don't have to match them. You can calmly say, "I want to talk about this, but not if we're shouting. Let's pause and return later." This isn't withdrawal, it's protection of peace. Boundaries like this show that calmness isn't weakness, it's self-respect. And then there's empathy. Empathy doesn't mean agreeing with everything. It means remembering that behind anger is usually hurt. Behind defensiveness is usually fear. When you see this, you stop taking attacks personally. You realize the storm isn't about you. It's about what they carry. Empathy doesn't excuse poor behavior, but it keeps you from adding fuel. Calmness grows when you choose compassion over escalation. Practical strategies help here. Try the pause, breathe, respond method. When someone says something triggering, pause for a heartbeat, breathe once, then respond. That tiny gap prevents knee-jerk reactions. Or practice I statements. I feel anxious when deadlines shift, instead of, you always mess up the schedule. These small adjustments transform the emotional temperature of conversations. Consider also the ripple effect. When you communicate calmly, you don't just protect your peace, you influence others. A calm tone invites a calm reply. A respectful boundary teaches others to respect too. In this way, calmness is contagious. Your steadiness spreads like warmth in a cold room. Picture this: a heated meeting at work, voices rising. Instead of joining the storm, you slow your words, keep your posture open, summarize what others are saying, and calmly offer a way forward. The energy shifts. People lean in. The storm softens. Or at home, a family argument brews, and instead of retreating or shouting, you hold your ground calmly. I care about this, and I want to talk in a way that helps us, not hurts us. These moments redefine how others experience you. You become the calm center of the circle. This doesn't mean every conversation will be smooth. Some people will resist. Some will cling to drama. Some will misinterpret calmness as indifference. But over time, patterns shift. People learn that you won't be baited into chaos. They sense your steadiness, and eventually, they meet you there. Calm communication is less about controlling others and more about setting the tone. In the end, communication without conflict is an act of generosity. You offer others the gift of being heard without judgment. You express yourself honestly without harm. You draw boundaries without hostility. And in doing so, you not only protect your calm, you invite a shared calm into the space you occupy together. You've stepped into the practice of calm communication, learning to listen with presence and speak with clarity. But calmness in relationships doesn't end with words. It deepens into the invisible line that defines where you end and another begins. That line is your boundary. And boundaries, when held with empathy, are not barriers that shut people out. They are bridges that keep relationships healthy, balanced, and respectful. To stay calm in every situation, you must learn the art of setting boundaries with empathy. Think of boundaries as the edges of your emotional landscape. Without them, others trample over your needs and exhaust your energy. You end up saying yes when you mean no, agreeing when you disagree, showing up when you're depleted. Resentment builds quietly, and calmness shatters under the weight of obligation. On the other hand, rigid boundaries, walls of stone, cut you off from connection, leaving you isolated. The art lies in balance, clear enough to protect your peace, soft enough to allow love. The first step is self-awareness. You cannot set boundaries if you don't know where they belong. Start noticing where you feel drained. Pay attention to moments of tension in your body, a tightening when someone asks for too much, a sinking feeling when you agree reluctantly, a spark of irritation when your time is ignored. These signals are your compass. They tell you when a boundary is needed. Too often, people dismiss these signals until they explode in anger. Calmness grows when you honor them early, before resentment festers. Once you identify a boundary, the challenge is expressing it. Many fear that setting limits will hurt others. But here is the truth. People are more hurt by unspoken expectations and hidden resentment than by honest clarity. Calmness in relationships comes from openness. Instead of avoiding the conversation, you say with steadiness, "I need some time to recharge after work before talking." Or, "I can help with this task, but not with all of it." Notice the structure. It names your need without attack. It asserts without aggression. Tone makes all the difference. A boundary shouted in frustration feels like rejection. A boundary spoken calmly with empathy feels like respect. Imagine telling a friend, "I can't talk right now, but I value our conversations and want to give you my full attention later." This communicates both your limit and your care. Boundaries with empathy acknowledge the humanity of both sides. They say, "I matter, and you matter too." Of course, some will test your boundaries. They may push, guilt trip, or ignore them. Here, consistency is vital. A boundary that shifts with pressure is not a boundary. It's a suggestion. To hold calmness, you must enforce gently but firmly. If you say, "I can't work weekends," but cave the first time someone insists, resentment returns. Each time you uphold a boundary, you strengthen your calm. Each time you waver, you weaken it. Empathy also requires you to see the other person's perspective. Boundaries are not ultimatums. They are negotiations. For example, if a colleague leans on you often, you might say, "I want to support you, but I also need to protect my workload. Can we find a way to share responsibilities more evenly?" This invites cooperation rather than conflict. Calm grows when boundaries become collaborative rather than combative. In families, boundaries can be even harder. Cultural expectations, generational habits, and emotional ties complicate the picture. Yet here too, empathy is the key. Telling a parent, "I love you, but I need privacy in my own home," can feel heavy. But if you wrap the message in love, "Your presence means so much to me, and I also need space to recharge so I can show up with full energy when we're together," it lands differently. The firmness remains, but the delivery carries compassion. Practical tools can help. Use I statements to frame boundaries. "I need," "I feel," "I prefer." Avoid blame. "You always," "You never." Blame sparks defensiveness. Clarity invites understanding. Also, be specific. "I need space" is vague. "I need 20 minutes of quiet after dinner" is clear. Specificity turns boundaries from abstract ideas into practical agreements. Another strategy is practicing small boundaries first. Decline a minor request kindly, and notice that the world doesn't collapse. With each step, you build confidence. Soon, you can handle bigger boundaries, protecting your time, energy, values, without guilt. This progression trains both you and those around you to respect your calmness. It's also important to remember that boundaries shift. What you can give today may not be what you can give tomorrow. Life circumstances change, and so must your limits. Communicating these shifts with honesty maintains trust. Calmness doesn't require rigid rules. It requires ongoing awareness and adaptability. Here's the beautiful paradox. When you set boundaries with empathy, relationships often deepen rather than weaken. People learn to trust your honesty. They know where they stand with you. They see that your yes means yes, because your no means no. This reliability creates safety, and safety is the soil where calmness grows. Imagine living this way. At work, you decline extra projects without guilt, focusing on what matters most. At home, you carve space for rest without resentment, and your loved ones adjust to it. With friends, You give generously but within your limits. So your generosity comes from abundance, not depletion. Every relationship feels lighter, clearer, calmer, not because there are no demands, but because there is mutual respect. In the end, boundaries with empathy are an act of love. They say, I honor myself enough to protect my peace, and I honor you enough to communicate it kindly. They transform relationships from silent battles into open agreements, and they anchor your calmness, making it strong enough to endure not only solitude and mindfulness, but also the beautiful, messy dance of human connection. You've drawn lines with empathy, discovered the strength of saying no without guilt, and learned that calmness is preserved not by shutting people out, but by balancing your needs with theirs. Yet even as you build these boundaries, there is still one adversary that follows you everywhere, your own inner critic. No argument with a friend, no email from your boss, no honking driver on the road can match the relentless whispers that echo in your own mind. If calmness is to be your superpower, you must learn to defeat this critic and rebuild trust with yourself. Pause for a moment and tune in. What is the voice inside your head saying right now? Maybe it's reminding you of a mistake you made last week, replaying it again and again. Maybe it's telling you that you'll never get everything done, that you're always behind, that you're somehow less than others. Or maybe it's quieter, but persistent, always doubting, always questioning. That voice is the inner critic, and though it thinks it's protecting you, it often becomes the thief of calmness. The critic is old. It carries the voices of teachers, parents, peers, cultures. Sometimes it began with good intentions, reminding you to study, to behave, to improve. But over the years, it hardened into judgment. Now it scolds instead of guides, punishes instead of encourages. And because it speaks in your own tone, you believe it. The critic disguises itself as truth. But here is the revelation. The critic is not truth. It is habit. And like any habit, it can be broken. The first step is recognition. Notice when the critic shows up. Label it. Ah, here is the voice that says, I'm failing. This simple act separates you from it. You are not the critic. You are the one hearing it. Just as you wouldn't believe every stranger shouting on the street, you don't have to believe every thought in your head. Awareness loosens its grip. Next, challenge its accuracy. Ask, is this statement fact or opinion? If the critic says, you always mess up, test it. Always. Is that true? Or is it one mistake exaggerated into a pattern? If it says, you're not good enough, ask, good enough for what? Compared to whom? Under what measure? Often, the critic collapses under scrutiny. It relies on generalizations, exaggerations, absolutes. When you shine the light of reason on it, its power shrinks. But challenging is only half. You must also replace. Imagine a friend came to you with the same struggle. Would you speak to them the way your critic speaks to you? Likely not. You would reassure them, remind them of their strengths, encourage them. Why not offer yourself the same compassion? Begin practicing counter statements. I made a mistake, but I am learning. I feel behind, but I am making progress. I don't know everything, but I know enough to take the next step. These affirmations are not empty slogans. They are antidotes to poison. Another tool is reframing failure. The critic thrives on magnifying errors, making each one proof of inadequacy. But when you adopt a growth mindset, failure becomes data, not doom. You say, this didn't work, but now I know what to adjust. Every inventor, every artist, every leader has stumbled. The critic says, "You failed, so you are a failure." Growth says, "You failed, so you are growing." This shift turns obstacles into training grounds. Calmness returns when mistakes lose their sting. Physical practices can also silence the critic. Negative self-talk often tightens the body. Hunched shoulders, shallow breath, clenched jaw. By straightening your posture, taking slow breaths, and softening your muscles, you disrupt the critic's cycle. The body tells the mind, "We are safe." Calm floods in where judgment once roared. Movement, walking, stretching, yoga also helps. As the body flows, the mind loosens its grip on harsh loops. For deeper wounds, writing is powerful. Take a page and let the critic speak freely. You're not enough. You're failing. You'll never succeed. Then, in another color, write your compassionate response. I am enough. I have succeeded before. I am allowed to grow slowly. This dialogue on paper externalizes the inner war. Over time, your compassionate voice grows louder, your critic quieter. And here is a profound truth. The critic is not your enemy. It is a misguided protector. It fears failure, rejection, abandonment. It thinks harshness will shield you. But calmness comes when you thank it and release it. You say, "I know you're trying to protect me, but I don't need you to shout anymore." You integrate it as a softer guide, not a tyrant. Imagine walking through life free from that constant whip. You try new things without fear of ridicule from yourself. You rest without guilt because you no longer hear. You're lazy. You celebrate small wins without muttering. It's not enough. Your inner world becomes a sanctuary instead of a battlefield. And from that sanctuary, calmness radiates outward. This is not a quick fix. The critic has rehearsed its lines for decades, but each time you notice, challenge, and replace, you weaken its script. Each act of self-compassion strengthens your calm. And one day, you catch yourself facing a setback, and instead of collapsing into self-blame, you hear a gentler voice. "That was hard, but you're doing well." That moment is victory. That moment is freedom. Calmness is not only about silencing the world's noise, but also about softening your own. When you defeat the inner critic, you stop fighting yourself. And when you stop fighting yourself, calmness is no longer a visitor. It becomes home. You've begun to soften the sharpness of your inner critic, learning to replace judgment with compassion and cultivating a calmer relationship with yourself. But calmness is not only about silencing the negative, it's also about actively building a more powerful inner dialogue. This is where the practice of positive self-affirmation comes alive. Affirmations are not just fluffy words whispered in the mirror. They are conscious declarations that rewire how you see yourself and, by extension, how you move through the world. At its core, affirmation means to affirm, to make firm. Each time you repeat a phrase like, "I am capable," you are carving a groove in your mind, strengthening a belief that steadies you when life shakes. For years, the inner critic carved its grooves. "I am not enough. I always fail. I can't handle this." Those phrases became highways. Your brain traveled without effort. Affirmations are the detour signs, the new roads. They redirect your mental traffic towards strength, worth, and calm. Start by understanding why affirmations work. Neuroscience shows that your brain cannot always distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and reality. When you repeat affirmations with feeling, Your nervous system responds as if they are true. Over time, repeated thoughts become neural pathways, just as water carves canyons through stone. Affirmations carve beliefs through repetition. This is not wishful thinking, it is mental training. But affirmations must be more than empty words. Saying, "I am a billionaire," when you are drowning in debt, only deepens disbelief. The key is to make them specific, believable, and emotionally charged. Instead of "I am perfect," try, "I am learning and growing every day." Instead of "I never fail," try, "Every challenge is a chance to grow stronger." These affirmations align with reality while gently lifting you upward. The most powerful affirmations are tied to values. Ask yourself, what matters most to me? Calmness, courage, compassion, creativity. Build affirmations around those pillars. I return to calm with every breath. I choose courage in uncertainty. I treat myself with compassion. I create freely and fearlessly. When affirmations echo your deepest values, they feel authentic, and authenticity fuels transformation. Practice affirmations daily. Morning is potent. The mind is fresh, less cluttered, more open to suggestion. Stand tall, breathe deeply, and speak them aloud. Sound carries power. Hearing your own voice affirm your worth imprints it deeper. Evening is equally powerful, replacing the day's noise with words of calm before sleep. Whisper them like lullabies to your nervous system. I release the day. I rest in peace. Writing affirmations adds another layer. When pen meets paper, the mind slows and the words become embodied. Post them where you'll see them, on mirrors, desks, phones. Let them interrupt your old loops. Each sighting is a reminder. You are not who your critic says. You are who you choose to affirm. And affirmations are not only about building calm, they are about building resilience. Picture facing a stressful meeting. The critic whispers, "You'll mess this up." But you've trained yourself with affirmations. I am prepared. I speak with clarity. I remain calm under pressure. As you breathe those words, your body responds. Shoulders relax. Heart steadies. Calm replaces panic. This is affirmation at work, not magic, but mental conditioning. There is also a spiritual dimension. Affirmations align you with universal truths, that you are inherently worthy, that you carry the same spark of life as everyone else, that peace is your birthright. When you affirm, I am enough, you are not inventing worth, you are remembering it. Affirmations become a way of returning to your essence, to the calm center beneath all noise. Still, be patient. At first, affirmations may feel awkward, even false. That's normal. The critic has rehearsed its script for years. Your new lines will take practice. But persistence rewrites the play. Over weeks, months, you'll notice subtle shifts. You stand taller. You recover quicker. You speak more kindly to yourself. These shifts compound into transformation. Here's a practical exercise. Choose 3 affirmations for the week. Speak them morning and night. Write them once a day. Whenever stress rises, repeat them silently. At the end of the week, reflect. How did they shape my choices, my emotions, my calm? Then adjust and choose 3 new ones. This rolling practice keeps affirmations fresh and alive. Affirmations also ripple outward. When you affirm your calmness, your interactions change. You enter conversations steadier, so others feel steadier too. When you affirm resilience, you model it for colleagues and friends. Children who hear affirmations from their parents, You are loved. You are capable. Grow into adults with stronger self-belief. In this way, affirmations are not only personal tools, they are generational gifts. Imagine your life infused with this practice. Each morning, instead of checking messages, you begin with, "I step into today with calm confidence." Each setback, instead of spiraling into criticism, you counter with, "I am learning, and I move forward with grace." Each night, instead of drowning in what-ifs, you soothe yourself with, "I release, I rest, I renew." Over time, these words shape your identity. Calmness stops being something you chase and becomes something you embody. In the end, positive self-affirmation is not about pretending. It is about choosing which truths to highlight. You can highlight fear, or you can highlight courage. You can highlight lack, or you can highlight abundance. You can highlight judgment, or you can highlight compassion. What you affirm, you become. And when you affirm calmness consistently, you become its living expression, steady, resilient, unshakable. You've filled your inner dialogue with affirmation, replacing the critic's harshness with gentler truths. Calmness has become more than an idea. It's something you practice with words, breath, boundaries, and presence. Yet there remains another powerful shaper of your state, the environment you inhabit day after day. While earlier, we explored the influence of clutter, light, and digital noise. Now, it's time to go deeper, because your surroundings are not just backdrops to your life. They are active forces sculpting your emotions, your energy, and your calm. Look first at physical space. Walk into a room and feel its weight before a single word is spoken. A messy kitchen pulls your attention to undone chores. A crowded office tells your nervous system there is no escape. A clean, open living room invites breath. Your body is always scanning, always responding, even when you don't consciously notice. Calmness thrives when space supports you, not when it battles you. Start with decluttering. This is not about obsessing over minimalism or turning your home into a showroom. It is about creating a space where your eyes and mind can rest. Every item left scattered is a reminder, a micro-task. That stack of unopened mail hums with pressure. That overstuffed closet whispers of decisions avoided. Calm is eroded by 1,000 little reminders of unfinished business. By clearing, sorting, and simplifying, you remove invisible stress. The reward is not just tidy shelves, it's an uncluttered mind. But environment is not only about what you remove, it's also about what you add. Light matters. Natural light boosts mood, regulates hormones, enhances clarity. Darkness at the wrong times disrupts sleep, and harsh artificial light strains the body. Open your curtains in the morning. Step into daylight. Let the sun reset your rhythm. In the evening, soften light. Invite warmth. Cue the body to wind down. You are not separate from these cycles. You are wired into them. Aligning with light restores balance. Air matters too. Stale air dulls thought. Fresh air sharpens it. Simple rituals, opening windows, stepping outside for a few deep breaths, become acts of nervous system hygiene. And don't underestimate sound. Constant noise raises stress hormones even if you tune it out. That hum of traffic, the buzz of appliances, the chatter from the next room, they accumulate silently. Protect calm with intentional sound. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's gentle music, the sound of water, or nature recordings. Choose what steadies you. Bring nature inside. Even a single plant on a desk lowers stress. A window view of trees restores attention more effectively than blank walls. This is the principle of biophilic design, weaving nature into human spaces, wooden textures, flowing water, green leaves, all remind your nervous system of the environments it evolved in. You don't need a forest retreat. You need reminders of your connection to the living world. Calm blooms in greenery. Then there is digital space. The modern world is flooded with screens, notifications, feeds. Calmness crumbles under constant digital assault. Every ping is a jolt, every scroll a comparison, every headline a spark of stress. You think you are resting when you scroll, but often you are feeding agitation. Digital clutter is as real as physical clutter, and it requires just as much care. Start by taking control of notifications. Silence the ones that are not truly urgent. Ask yourself, do I need to know about every email instantly? Every like, every comment, every breaking story? Each alert hijacks attention and teaches your body to expect interruption. Choose windows of time to check instead of letting your phone dictate your rhythm. Create screen edges. Mornings without phones anchor you before the flood. Evenings without screens soothe you before sleep. A digital curfew, 30 minutes to an hour before bed, gives your nervous system a chance to slow down. This is not restriction, it is restoration. Practice digital fasting. Set aside an afternoon or a day without screens. At first, discomfort rises, itching to check, feeling you're missing something. But then silence deepens, focus returns, creativity surfaces. You realize how much of your anxiety was borrowed from the feed. Calmness grows in the gaps you reclaim. And remember, content matters. Your digital diet is as important as your physical diet. If you feed your mind outrage, comparison, and fear, calm cannot stay. Curate what you see. Follow accounts that inspire, teach, uplift, mute, or unfollow those that drain. You are the gardener of your digital landscape. Plant wisely. Notice, too, the overlap between physical and digital. A desk cleared of clutter but dominated by glowing screens is not calm. A phone buzzing during meditation is not neutral. It is sabotage. Protecting calmness means aligning both spaces. Imagine your workspace. Clear desk, plant in the corner, natural light streaming in, phone in another room. Imagine your evenings. Warm lighting, books within reach, phone silenced, air fresh. These are not luxuries. They are environments designed for peace. But perhaps most important is recognizing that environment is not static. Life shifts, seasons change, your needs evolve. The environment that supported you last year may now agitate you. That's why regular audits matter. Ask, does this room calm me? Does this feed nourish me? Does this routine restore me? Adjust accordingly. Calmness is not about rigid rules, but about alignment, moment by moment, season by season. When you design your environment with intention, calmness stops being fragile. It is supported, reinforced, echoed in every detail around you. You no longer fight your space. Your space fights for you. And when physical and digital align, you are free to rest, focus, breathe. Calmness becomes the natural background music of your life, not an occasional track. You've seen how your outer world shapes your inner one, how clutter whispers stress, how light and air restore balance, how digital noise hijacks attention. With each layer, you've been building a foundation of calm. But calmness is not meant to stay locked inside meditation sessions, quiet corners, or screen-free hours. The real power lies in carrying it into every part of your daily life, weaving it into routines so ordinary they barely seem worth noticing. Integration is where calmness stops being a practice and becomes an identity. Think of your day as a river. At sunrise, it begins with gentle ripples. By midday, the current quickens, full of demands and noise. Evening slows again, drifting toward rest. To stay calm in every situation, you don't need to fight this river. You learn to float with intention, to guide yourself with oars of mindfulness at each bend. Start with mornings. The way you begin sets the tone for everything after. If you wake and immediately dive into screens, you flood your nervous system with urgency before your body has even stretched. Instead, choose rituals of calm. Open the curtains. Breathe deeply. Drink water slowly. Even 5 minutes of mindful breathing before emails creates a buffer of steadiness. This isn't about elaborate routines. It's about presence. Imagine whispering to yourself, "I begin my day anchored in calm." That one sentence can shift an entire morning. Carry calm into work. The modern workplace thrives on multitasking, but multitasking scatters calm. Instead, practice single-task focus. Give your full attention to one task, breathe into it, finish, then move on. This rhythm preserves energy. When interruptions come, and they will, pause, inhale once, then respond. That micro break resets your nervous system, preventing stress from snowballing. Over time, colleagues notice. You are the one who stays steady when others rush. Calmness becomes your professional reputation. In relationships, integrate mindful communication. When someone speaks, set down your phone, look at them fully, and listen. When you respond, breathe before words leave your mouth. These tiny pauses transform dynamics. A child feels heard, a partner feels respected, a coworker feels valued. Calm spreads outward through your attention. Integration here means you stop treating mindfulness as a solo practice and start treating it as a way of being with others. Even in the smallest routines, calm can live. Washing dishes becomes meditation, warm water, circular motions, the quiet rhythm of completion. Walking to the store becomes mindfulness, noticing steps, sky, air. Eating lunch becomes gratitude, each bite savored, each flavor honored. These ordinary acts are the threads that weave calmness into daily life. But integration requires planning. It doesn't happen by accident. Create a personalized action plan. Begin by clarifying your goals. Ask, what would a calmer life look like for me? Maybe it means less reactivity in traffic, more patience with family, steadier focus at work. Write these down, then break them into steps. If your goal is calmer mornings, your step might be 5 minutes of breath before screens. If your goal is steadier focus, your step might be 1 deep breath before each new task. These micro commitments compound into transformation. Use the SMART method: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. Instead of vague, "I'll be calmer," say, "I will practice mindful breathing for 5 minutes at 7 a.m. daily for 2 weeks." This gives your calmness plan structure. Without structure, intentions fade into wishes. With structure, they become habits. Track your progress. Keep a journal. What worked today? Where did calm slip? What adjustments help? This is not about perfection. It's about awareness. Even noticing. "I snapped today, but I caught it quicker than last week," is growth. Celebrate these wins. Each moment of progress is proof that calmness is training your nervous system like a muscle. Anticipate obstacles. There will be mornings when you oversleep, conversations that spark anger, days when calm feels far away. Plan for them. Decide now. When I oversleep, I'll still take 2 mindful breaths before rushing out. When someone triggers me, I'll pause before replying. These pre-decisions prevent chaos from derailing you. Integration also thrives on community. Share your practices with friends or family. Create moments of collective calm, a household screen-free dinner, a workplace breathing break, a walk with no phones. Calm grows stronger when practiced together, and accountability makes it sustainable. Most of all, let calmness become your identity. Stop saying, "I am trying to be calm." Start saying, "I am calm." Your words shape your reality. When you embody calmness, your actions align naturally. Challenges will still come, but instead of asking, "How do I survive this?" you'll ask, "How do I respond as the calm person I am?" That shift is the heart of integration. Imagine the ripple effect. You enter rooms carrying steadiness. People feel safer. You navigate setbacks without panic. People trust you more. You live days filled with presence. People admire your clarity. Calmness becomes not only your gift to yourself, but also your contribution to the world. Integration is not about perfection. It is about persistence. Some days you'll glide effortlessly. Others you'll stumble. But each time you return, each breath, each pause, each kind word, you strengthen the groove. Calmness stops being something you practice and becomes something you embody. That is the art of not caring, not apathy, but freedom. Freedom from being yanked by every trigger, every distraction, every storm. You walk through life with calmness as your atmosphere. You've journeyed through recognition of triggers, immediate relief, long-term resilience, mindful communication, compassionate self-talk, affirmations, environmental design, and daily integration. Each section was a step, not just toward knowledge, but toward embodiment. And now, as the river of this audiobook slows toward stillness, it's time to let the pieces settle into you, like stones at the bottom of a clear pond. Calmness is not something you chase. It is not a trophy at the end of perfect discipline. It is a state that grows stronger every time you pause before reacting, every time you breathe deeply instead of spiraling, every time you choose clarity over chaos. You've seen that calm is not weakness. It is power under control, the kind of strength that doesn't need to shout to be heard. As you carry this into your life, remember, you will slip. You will forget. Old patterns will pull at you. That does not erase your progress. Calmness is not about perfection. It is about return. Return to breath. Return to presence. Return to the gentle reminder that you are not defined by circumstances, but by how you meet them. Let your calm ripple outward. When you speak with steady tone, others soften. When you hold firm, yet kind boundaries, respect grows. When you design your spaces with care, your mind finds ease. Each act of calmness is not just self-care, but world care. You become the calm center in circles of noise, and that is no small gift. So step forward now, not as someone who occasionally finds peace, but as someone who carries peace. Let calmness be your superpower, your quiet revolution, your art of not caring about what does not deserve your energy. In that art, you will find freedom.